This is the lovely Dawn Paul, everybody. Lovely to see you, Dawn. Good morning.
Good morning, madam. How are you?
All good, thank you. Very good. Dawn Paul, of course, shaman, author. She's been with us a number of times before. And Dawn is back to talk to us about star children. What is a star child, Dawn?
Quite a big question.
It is. Well, no, it's a small question to a big answer, right?
Yeah. So basically, it's, oh, hi, Sean. Sorry, I didn't see you.
Morning.
Hi, Madeleine. So basically, a star child is somebody that's here on Earth that doesn't originate from Earth. So look like everybody else, act like everybody else, but deep inside there's a feeling of huge difference, of being the square peg in the round hole, of feeling a little bit odd in social circumstances, even though you might love the friends that you're with, feeling separate from family again, even though you might love them, and having deep levels of sympathy and empathy, and kind of people pleasers as well. So it's not like a really weird thing like we rip our heads off at night and we're green underneath, but it's just this feeling of I am like dislocated, I'm not from here. And then there's this huge feeling of abandonment as well, and a feeling that you need to find your home. So a lot of my clients, I specialize, I am a star child, and I specialize in working with star children. Probably 97% of my clients are star child, and they'll go, well, if I move to this country, maybe it'll feel like home. Or this country, and it's like, no, it's like really not here. So in short, it's people that have come here from another realm to actually bring their light here to help the world at this time. Does that help?
Yes, it does to a degree. I was having a conversation with a friend last night, a very cynical friend, I should say. And he said, Star Child, isn't that new age crap where people feel the need to feel special? What would you say to a comment like that?
Well, as I say, star children represent about 97% of my client base. I would say
Wow.
Only, oh God, not very much, maybe 20% tell me I'm star child. I know I'm star child. The others, they just have all the symptoms. So in my book, not plugging my book, but that is a question.
Plug it.
They will, these questions, they will apply to everybody. So if I go through them with people, they go, yeah. And there's no variance.
Oh, give us some examples of those questions.
Yeah.
Give us some examples.
Yeah.
I feel,
So like, do people always come to you with their problems, even if you may not even know them? Do you have a poor relationship with your physical body? So maybe food issues. A lot of star children have, issues with food, like they either can't eat healthily, or they find it a strange thing to do, or they have anorexia issues, that sort of thing. I find a lot of star children have hormonal issues. They often are always anemic for some reason, and I haven't worked that out yet. So they tend to carb load a lot. Do they get very affected by things like the news, and hard to be interested in things that are worldly, like kind of sports and hobbies and things like that?
So
I'm ticking a few boxes here. Am I a starseed? Oh my God.
Oh my God. And there's a feeling of like really being homesick, or adopted. That's another one. And there's a thing also about, maybe in a friendship circle, you're the one that does all of the giving. And then when you need somebody, they kind of disappear.
Oh, wow.
So this is like, how many questions do you have there that you ask people?
Oh, there's 3 pages of questions,
right.
But they will always say yes.
So, but from those questions, that's how you're able to gauge So it's working out a scale, isn't it? Because
I
many of the things, so sorry, just to say, many of the things that you said, lots of people could relate to them, but it comes down to how many of those things that one individual could relate to, right?
It'll be all of the things.
Yes.
I mean, nobody goes, well, look, I had that one and that one, but I normally know anyway. It's almost like if they're coming to me, they've been sent to me, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And then I also do card readings before a session, and if it's in the cards in a couple of places, then I also know.
Being obviously working with these children and stuff, like obviously because the alien.
They're not children, they're grown.
Sorry, not children. Sorry, grown. Yeah, sorry. I think it's because it's
also children. Yeah.
But what do you think the differences or the changes once somebody gets told yes, you are, say? Because if we all might feel this alienation to such a neurotypical world when it's quite hard to navigate this slave planet we live in. So once you say yes, okay, maybe you have come here for a proper purpose and to raise the consciousness, etc. How does that still make somebody actually feel happier here when they are so alienated?
I don't think. This is the interesting thing. It doesn't.
Yeah. I can imagine
this is
it
what
doesn't.
I say to people. I can say it's not going to suddenly make it like easier, but it is going to help. Because most of the time, they're like, I had one client go, "There's something wrong with me," and she was going and getting medication for this, and she was saying it's not working, and that, and it's not working. And I said, "It's not going to work. There's nothing wrong with you," Wow. And so a lot of the time, there's relief. Sometimes it's crying, and it's almost like, well, I always suspected I was different, but a lot of the time there's sort of, I mean, you would think that if I said that to somebody, they would go like, are you insane? They'd have a very big reaction, and there's no reaction.
How do you balance ego against that? Because obviously if someone was to turn around to me and be like, oh my God, you've chosen, you've come here, that can play on ego, I suppose.
I don't think it's being chosen. I think it's
not
about
chosen, sorry.
It's volunteering, so I think that we possibly do, because remember that God like scattered himself through the universe, says, as which they are billions, and everyone's in a sort of a program to see who can become enlightened. And on some star systems they do it faster. Earth, we've been pretty slow. So it's not about being better, it's just about maybe we got there earlier, and then then it's almost like a job, when when I was an air hostess when I was really young, and they go like, oh, who's going to go to Madrid, and we go, oh, we'll go, and so it's almost like, I think God says, well, Earth's going to go through a really difficult time and needs some support, willing to go, and we're like, oh, we won't forget that we are, eternal beings, for example.
So everyone's still on the same equal playing field.
Yeah.
It's just that some have a higher connection.
We tend to have a high connection to the divine, which doesn't necessarily translate into religion, but there is almost like a missing, a remembrance of that unconditional love, and also a remembrance of our star family as well. So I remember being 3, and my mum was buttoning me up. I had one of these duffel coats with the big horn buttons.
I remember them.
And I was looking at her, any arms like this because they're really tight. And I can remember just looking at her thinking, well, who are you? And I knew she was like my mum, but I also knew she wasn't, in a way. And there was I don't know if you remember, Sonia, a big thing then about putting the children in the garden for fresh air.
Yes.
So put me outside on this freezing day in my little duffel coat, and it was a winter, and it was grey, and the trees were doing this in the wind, and I was like, this is horrendous. What am I doing here? So it's like this
I
deep
have some similar feelings to that. I definitely felt I was
Yeah.
adopted. That triggered me when you just said
Wow.
that. Let me just read what Craig said. I think that's really my daughter, Olivia, good morning, Olivia, said she watched me going about my life and picked me to be her dad. She said she watched from above. I mean, she's like, what is she, 7 years old, Craig, or something?
But that's different. That's different with respect, because
On.
we all pick our parents from above. We all
Right.
do that.
Right. So
Yeah.
that's something that everybody does, not just exclusive to
I have heard that
Starchild.
before, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
But
Interesting.
because we're here to learn and grow, so we pick the people that will help us to learn and grow.
Wow.
And also the child will bring a lesson to the parents to help them. So say if a couple
Yeah.
is given like a disabled child, it's because that's the lessons that they need to go on.
Yeah, so
That
the
makes
disabled
sense.
child wants to have learnings from the disablement, so they've probably got other abilities, and
Yes.
then seeing the world from a different way, and then maybe the parents want to learn unconditional love, compassion.
Yeah.
So it's like,
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds, I mean, from what you've said so far about a star child, it sounds like quite a burden. Like,
it's horrible.
Oh,
It's
okay.
horrible. Yeah. So this book took me 7 years to write.
I need to
And
read this
the
book.
reason it took me so long is because I put my experiences of life in that. The thing I wasn't going to write about was the Starchild stuff. And I would say that was been the most painful part of life for me, even though there's been many painful parts of life for me, because we can't really talk about it, and you don't understand it. I understand it now, but until I was 33, I thought it was just me that felt that way. And at 33, I realized my mum felt that way. And then it's like, oh.
Did you feel isolated?
Just just really like the square peg, just so different. You think differently. I used to talk in different language. Now, obviously, it's different for me because I was born a shaman, But I ask my Starchild clients, when did you know? And they'll go, oh, 7, 8, 5, So very, very young, very young. But it is a massive burden. But then also, conversely, there's huge gifts with it because we're massive empaths.
Right.
So we'd be brilliant doctors, nurses, vets, often go into healing arts because we will have been, a point I do want to make is that we haven't just come in this lifetime, we've come for a tranche of lifetimes here. So we've probably been here for, I don't know, 30,000 years, for 40,000 years, but we will have always been Starchild. So we will have always been drawn to esoteric stuff, healing arts, helping people,
Right.
Being an oracle, being a seer, a healer of some point. So there's also in us a massive fear of persecution, because we have been those types of people, Sonia, have been persecuted throughout history. And so therefore, in this lifetime, what you find is you have these people that do have a huge amount of light to give to the world, and they're all hiding.
It's such a shame, isn't it? So, yeah. I mean, so basically, do you think that, because I'm trying to, because I've all those things that you've described, I've always often felt that. I've often felt kind of separated from the pack. I've felt like I was adopted, all of these different things. I've always felt all of that, resonating with all of this, says Zoe. But do you think that throughout our lives, we get these kind of indicators of what we are? Because you've been working with this for 20 years, but I didn't know about a Starchild 20 years ago. So how would you have known?
Well, I didn't know the term Starchild. I just knew at 3, I definitely wasn't from here.
At 3?
Yeah, and then it was kind of like observing, like, kind of, what do they do, what do they wear, what do they eat? It's like,
oh God, like you felt like an alien.
Precisely.
Do you think it's linked to blood type?
You know?
Do you think it's possibly linked to blood type at all? I'm a rhesus negative. That's what I often put down to feeling like an alien.
Yeah, I'm A minus. Yeah.
I need
Right.
to learn about blood types, yeah.
Right. So there's a possible link there as well, right?
You say diet.
Well, because that line is, I believe, from Egypt, and of course, they were massively connected to the stars, anyway. You know, so
that's why
I
we
think,
worship Hollywood now. We worship
I
the
know.
stars in Hollywood.
Yes.
But you know, the thing is that lots of people go, oh, it's egotistical. The star children aren't egotistical. They are hiding in the background in jobs that they could do standing on their heads. They could probably do them managers on the heads, you know. And there's also an ability. I remember I was at the bank, I just had an ability to look at something and go, well, that will work, or that won't work. And they were like, don't be ridiculous. And always power struggles.
Oh my God, you could like distill information like in a moment. Wow.
You just get it. And then not everything, you know, but I can get things, you know, but it's almost like a solutions. You can find them very quickly. And people go, well, you know, oh, don't be negative. And I'm not being negative. It's just not going to work.
Yeah, analytical beyond reason.
We just go, and it's like, no, and you can just push things forward, you know.
Computed about 50 different outcomes.
Yeah. So the thing is, for star children, while working with me, isn't going to make anything better, because effectively we are still in the world. What I hope to get people to understand is that they have come here with, I talk about it in terms of light bulbs, you know, like you have different wattages of light bulbs. So I go, well, you know, you're here as a 60 watt bulb and your job is to get to 100 watts, and then you're shining brightness in the world. But you put yourself on a dimmer switch and you're only popping out 25 watts.
That is a beautiful analogy.
Yeah, it is a beautiful analogy, because I mean, Dawn's whole thing is about getting people to reach their potential, to let them be who they're supposed to be. Go on, Sean.
That makes more sense to me, though.
The other thing that's really, really important is that for some reason they tend to think, and I thought it as well for many years, that it's about doing. So we have to find the cure for cancer and AIDS and solve homelessness and poverty, preferably within the next year.
But that could have all been sorted 20 years ago.
Well, yeah, we know that, but but the thing is, I have to save the world by myself.
Yes,
and they put themselves under massive pressure, and then they think at a certain point of healing, they go, "Oh, I have to become a healer now," and it's like, no, you don't. So it's not about what you're doing in life; it's what you're being while you're doing.
You're shining.
That
what you've just tagged, because obviously I struggle with the whole side of it, and you know, you must have you ever been called crazy for this?
Oh, many times.
Oddly, no.
Wow.
That's why I didn't do the chapter in the book. But everybody, you know, not one person. I've told thousands of people about this. Not one person have gone, "Well, you're mad." Even psychologists, psychotherapists have a lot of those clients. No one's gone, "Oh, you're mad."
Because I think if it's described one way, it seems egotistical. But if it's described in the way you just have, that, you know, everybody is part of the same electromagnetic light bulb, but it's what sort of wattage you're bringing to the collective love frequency.
Yeah, and I think if we're shining as we should be shining, then what we're doing is we're helping everybody else to get to 40, 60, 100, 160.
Yes, and then there's the third, what is it, the third monkey or the 100th monkey. Once everyone hits 100 watts, then everybody hits 100 watts. Or once 100,
because also,
you know what the term is? Sorry.
Yeah. It's important for the earth, you know, because the earth's going through massive shift right now, and the earth needs that light as well. So really it's about understanding that, you know, you're still going to struggle with stuff, but it's taking away that, what's wrong with me.
Right. And that's really important. Let me throw this at you. This is interesting. Shin, by the way, we told everybody to come check out your channel at the start of the show. I don't think you were with us when we did that, but Shin makes a comment saying, don't we all have multiple personalities that must come out? Isn't that why we used to have rituals at 7 years, 14 years, 21 years, etc., etc.? So there's that as well. Is there a link there?
I do get that point, and I think that in a way we need to bring those rituals back. You know, like in the Australian Aboriginal culture, they'll take a young man on a walkabout. You know, so he takes that transition from boy to man, but it's a kind of a different thing. That's almost like an archetypical shift. This is just like what you are, and yes, everybody needs to, well, is supposed to be here to evolve and grow and become brighter, but my sense is that we are going to go through coming to big changes, and I think hopefully the Star Children will stand up and do their bit, because really it's about, for everybody, it's mastering the concerns of the ego mind and listening to the soul rather than the fear-based chatter, you know. So yes, there are different stages.
Right. Shin's
life.
agreeing with you. Shin is agreeing with you, saying exactly, Dawn, that's what I mean. Luggerbug says ego is a controlling force. It needs to be tamed if you want to be free of shackles. How much of a problem is ego?
It ruins my life, because I work with clients, and they you know, I could say to them, you know, do anything. Oh yeah, and then I go, right, now control this, and they're like, oh no. And the concept of the comfort zone or known zone is such a nightmare, because people go, well, if I come out of where I am, let's say it's hell, and then I'm happy, what if something bad happens?
Right.
And I'm like, well, and I don't know what that is like, so I'm going to stay here because I know it's what it's like, and it's a control by the ego mind for all of us. It's the biggest block to spiritual development.
Yes.
And happiness, I think, and happiness, because everything we want to do, like, oh, I want to be an artist, I have to give up my job as a lawyer. Oh, what will I do for, you know, money, rather than trusting and having faith.
But there's some good things about it, isn't there? Because ego, for example, ego tells me that I can make a video that is worth watching. Do you see what I'm saying? So there has to be some good things to it, doesn't it?
Well, you know, it is a physical thing. It's a physical brain. It's about this big. It's a limbic brain at the top of the brain stem, and it's primitive. So it's only really consumed with fighting and food and fear and sex. And people go, oh, it's the enemy, and, you know, almost do the tinfoil thing on the head thing, but it's basically doing a lot of good. So if you fall unconscious, it will keep you breathing.
Right.
If you're cold, it's going to lift the hairs on your arms. It's going to regulate warmth. It's going to do all sorts of things. It's going to tell you, you know, you're hungry now, you know, have some food, but it's meant to be a slave.
Right. Okay. As opposed to a master.
What happens is we listen to it, and then this happens, and all of a sudden it's the master, we are the slave.
Yes.
So much of my work is doing this.
Yeah. Well, so people listening to this, there will be some people, or there's lots of people in the comments who completely understand what you're saying. Many people really, this resonates with them so deeply. Some have already recognized themselves as being star children anyway, but there will be people who will be listening to this, because we get such a mixed audience, who will go, I've never thought about this before, but I really relate to what this woman is saying. How could they begin to work with that side of themselves?
Well, I think it's understanding that there is nothing wrong with them, because they are like, why do I struggle with this? Why do I struggle with food? And even little things like they've probably got gluten intolerances or dairy, because, you know, if you go to John Lewis and buy a lampshade, it's got a sticker in it that goes 40 watt max.
Yes.
So if you imagine that is the shade for the bulb, and the body is the shade. So if the bulb is, if we're made for, human souls, let's say, with a certain wattage, what you're doing is you're burning that body, the shade. Does that make sense? Because you're brighter than the shade
Right.
can tolerate. So
Right.
already the body is struggling to contain
Oh,
you.
there's already a mismatch going
Wow.
on there. Right. Okay. It's okay.
Yeah. So then when you put in alcohol, wheat, sugar, all of these sorts of things, the body's then even more overloaded. And star children have very little interest in food, find food very difficult. So if somebody could give me a tablet in the morning that has everything I needed, fiber, kept me full, everything, I'd be like, oh yeah, having to go to the shops, because we remember not having a body.
Oh, that's interesting.
Wow.
This
I'm
is where
so bored of food.
comes.
I'm literally so bored of food. That sounds ridiculous because I've
No,
always
same.
loved food. Yeah, I'm
Same.
literally so bored.
Bored of cooking. I'm bored of food, but I thought it was because I just know how none of it's real.
Yeah, I thought it was just because I needed to develop more, but I'm quite varied eater and cook. But that's interesting. That's really interesting because
So
this is basic stuff that you need to align yourself first, right, before you can become everything that, because there's a lot of blessings. We've talked about the burdens, but there are so many blessings attached to it. To be that sensitive, to be that in tune, to be able to see things with such an overview. These are fantastic things that we don't encourage in our education system, first of all. So we need people like Dawn to be able, because it's interesting that people have not demonized you in any way, because these kind of conversations scare people, Dawn.
There was nothing scary about it. It's good, really, because we are from all places, and we'll go to all places. So Earth people at some point will go to somewhere else, So because we never end, we're billions and billions and billions of years old. So there's nothing scary about it. I think what's scary for me about it is the fact that there's all these people here that have so much light to offer. And the other thing that star children do is they tend to hide in their house. They like to stay in their house, preferably upstairs, because it's like they make it a little sanctuary in a little world, like getting my mum out of the house, So it's about realizing that, it's difficult because of the persecution we've had in the past.
Right.
But they are going to keep away from crowds and people. And it's just about realizing that we are all eternal. And this is what Jesus was showing us on the cross, that I am not this body. So nothing here can hurt us. This isn't even really reality. This is like a program where a school where we come to learn and grow. So it's like a video game, you get to a level, you get to level 2, you get to level 3, and then it's game over. But then there's another video game going in. And then
I've always thought death was that.
Them,
yeah.
And then come off.
Yeah,
so
I always thought it'd be like,
here.
when I pass away, it'd be like level 2 completed.
Yeah, level 2 completed.
And then I
so
die.
There's no.
But it's only when I complete that task here. To say if I did something tomorrow, I could walk out and then get hit by a bus. But because I've completed that one task, my level 2's gone.
Done. Yeah, that's it. So, but the goal is, because it's coming here that is the issue. There's a Buddhist saying it's a cycle of birth and suffering, old age, death.
Right.
Yeah. So you want to get to a point in which you don't have to come here anymore, but then the evolution carries on in another realm. So there's still levels. Apparently there's 27 levels between enlightenment and Buddhahood. So how many are there to Godhood?
2 + 7 = 9. 9 is completion.
Yeah,
9 is God.
Exactly,
9 is God.
It is. Yeah, exactly.
Never ends.
It must be such a relief for some people to come to you after they've spent many years in their own sort of personal wilderness.
Yeah, I think that there is to be honest, I think most people have had an inkling, but they normally say, oh, I suspected it, but I don't admit it to myself. They probably never heard the term star children.
I think we're all looking for a greater purpose as well at the minute.
We are. But isn't that instinctive in us? Tinfoil is saying, what about near-death experience? Does this have any relation to it at all?
Not to star children, no, because anybody can have a near-death experience. I had one when I died when I was 7, and I think we've talked about it before. So it tends to have a similar format, though, for people. You know, the light, and then being taken somewhere, shown things,
Right. That outer worldly experience again, isn't it? I mean, the truth is that we are not mediocre. Human beings are not mediocre, but we've created this mediocre world.
Well, the ego mind doesn't want
Yes.
us going on a spiritual journey, so it's going to like focus us on the mortgage and, you know, the news and all of the things that are going on. You know, let's
The wheel. Yeah.
But we are, you know, multi-dimensional beings. Really, we're so amazing, you know. But we tend to see ourselves as a body, and we are not. We are not a body. We are, you know, aspects
with the light in, yeah.
Do you know what? It's really funny because I'd started off by telling you about this friend of mine who had been very cynical last night, but actually a lot of the stuff that you've said really relates to him. And is it possible that he is like running away from himself? I'm going to show him this video because he's really like in touch. He's somebody who's spiritual and really in touch, but he just won't accept these sort of things. So do you think it triggers him in some way?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, normally I see in families that there has to be a star child to bring a star child through. So my mum was a star child, but interestingly, my dad was also, and my brother is also. So I went one way with it. So I was looking into things, spiritual things, from the age of 3, and I'm 58 now. So that's like a really long time ago when the pickings, you know, were slim. My brother went the other way, as in, no, I'm not special, I'm going to be ordinary. And he really kind of closed everything down and, you know, I am going to live this ordinary life and not basically acknowledge who I am. And what happens is in the body reflects what's going on with the soul. So he was basically fighting his own soul. He ended up with, he's been very sick for 20 years. He's nearly died 5 years ago. He has had a slew of autoimmune conditions. And he's had ending up in stage 4 cancer.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
You know, and so when you fight yourself to that degree, it's not going to end very well. My father was also the same.
Right.
But my father was different in that he was like, there is no God. Because if there was a God, you remember the Fred West killings and all of that sort of thing. He was like, if there was a God, he would not have let that happen to those children. And then when that was on the news, he was so sensitive. He ended up in bed for 3 weeks. And because he took it all through his body. And it's like he was trying to clear things through his body. And he was ill for 30 years. So you can deny it, you know, but it's not going to help you. And at the end of the day, as I say to my clients, nothing on the outside is going to change. You know, not suddenly going to become a prophet or a seer, or, you know, but your relationship with yourself is going to be easier. You can relax,
which is paramount. That is the paramount thing, isn't it?
You don't have to change your job. You don't have to. I mean, for me to say to people, you don't have to, you know, solve world poverty on your own. They're like, oh, really? Oh, really?
Oh, let you off the hook. Dawn, thank you so much. This has been so enlightening. I really do appreciate it so much. Just it's so beautiful because it is, as I say, your aim is very simple, and that is you just want humans to reach their potential. That's really kind of basically it.
Yeah, well, I want to be not as in, you know, the potential as in heights of career and money, but as in, you know, the beingness, which is really their divinity, just letting that shine into the world. That's really it. Being happy.
That's a beautiful note to end on. We appreciate that very much. Everybody, Dawn, Paul, take good care of yourself. Have a lovely week. God bless you.
Thank you, my darling.
Lovely.
Bye-bye.
Yes,
Bye, Siobhan.
yes, Craig.
Cheers.
Yes, we all enjoyed that very much. Thank you. Thank you, Dawn. Take care. Bye. Bye.